Nerd Talk. I'm Pixie.
I'm pyrosim.
And I'm Snake.
And Sen's decided to ignore us for a week, I guess, so no Sen.
Okay, fine. I kidnapped him and left him in my basement. There, you happy?
He's busy digging a hole in the bottom of the Pacific Ocean, hoping to find another dimension.
I like my joke better.
Alright, that is a pretty sweet tie-in to our movie review for this week. Well, our first one, anyway. We all saw Pacific Rim. Not the same time, mind you, but...
Fairly close.
We could have timed it so we all saw it at the same time.
We probably couldn't.
Okay then, Debbie Downer.
At the very least, it would have been difficult.
Okay, fine. I'll buy that.
So yeah, Pacific Rim. Basically, some big hole that has, like, very strong vagina symbology tears in the bottom of the ocean, and a bunch of horrible monsters come piling out. And so humans decide to punch them in the face with giant robots that have to be piloted by two people who are brain synced so that they don't, like, each try to move the legs in different directions. And the program gets funding cut, and so the humans are all like, we're gonna build a wall instead, and the wall thing doesn't work, and so they're like, we have to fall back on the last, like, two of these robots that we have.
In retrospect, we should have planned better.
That's our very technical overview of the movie.
So, I
think, Snake, you were all like, yeah, that wall thing worked out really well for China, didn't it?
Maybe a historical reference there. You know, if at first you don't succeed, build taller and taller. I don't know what I'm talking.
I'd like to qualify this with the fact that I thought this didn't really bother me very much, but the science behind the fact that the Jaegers need to be piloted by two people is very, very insubstantial. Because, like, actually, this is technology we're fairly close to. If you wanted to build a Jaeger today, we kind of know the broad strokes of how you would do it, and it would impose no neural load on the pilot. Because what you would do is you would just scan the motor cortex of the person's brain for how they're already moving their muscles in their body, and then there's a part in your brain that turns on when you're dreaming that lets your motor homunculus, it's called, go wild without actually causing your body to flail. So,
which gives you sleep paralysis.
So if you wanted to set up a Jaeger pilot, what you'd do is you'd turn on their sleep paralysis mechanism, and then you'd just scan their sensory homunculus, and so they would move the way they would normally move their hands and legs, and then a computer would just go and translate that into moving the motors and other things required in the giant robot. And that would not ever cause that person to bleed out the nose. There's no load, it's just sort of reading. But that said, I was very, very willing to make this sacrifice because, like, the notion of experiencing other people's memories is a very clear, like, author fetish thing. It's like, man, there's isolation from each other. And this sort of, clearly Guillermo del Toro has watched a lot of animes. That is...
The nosebleed, we saw a little bit of parallel to the nosebleed as sign of sudden arousal thing.
No bit of subtlety right there at all.
I thought of the scene where the dude started bleeding from his forehead in Fifth Element with the black blood. But, okay, the premier giant mech anime that comes to my mind is Evangelion. And probably Gundam is, like, the one that's the more obvious referent, but I don't have any relationship to Gundam. But sort of the story of Evangelion is that the author is this really depressed dude who is deeply concerned with how humans are intrinsically isolated from each other. And so, well, could I spoil Neon Genesis Evangelion?
Considering how old that is...
And also how bullshit the ending is, I don't think anyone's going to care.
At some point, okay, so angels are attacking the Earth, and they're basically kaiju. And angels represent the loneliness of humanity, and we deal with the angels by turning everybody into this giant puddle of liquid that shares all thoughts and memories with each other. It's sort of the broad strokes. There's a lot of detail in there, but connecting with each other and being isolated from each other is like a theme in a lot of giant mech anime that were inspired after Evangelion. And so this fits in a genre, even though it's made by a Westerner and is live action.
More to the point, the way it ties in with Gundam is the way that those series use the weapon as the extension of the person using it. There's a very literal physical connection, whereas in Western stuff, it's more of a tool that you can just pick up and swap out. Whereas, like, the Jaeger is a part of you when you are synced to it, and you're not going to be using a bunch of different robots.
Well, the interesting thing, this seems to be the actual use of the two pilots seems almost like an interesting way of mixing Japanese style of using the mech as an extension of the body, but also with a very Western idea, and that is the cop buddy concept. or the odd couple, the idea of two people who are in some ways not quite fully the same, but need to put aside their differences and join up and become in sync with each other. They need to band together. They need to fight through all of this so that they can win the day. At least that's what I took from it. Or it could just be they need two people because they need 2 gigs of memory, or 2 humans of memory to run the robots.
Yeah, it was a fairly brief scene, but when they were waking up in the morning, the brother who dies early seemed to be, like, much more serious and collected than the brother who survives. So it's like, yeah, they're brothers and they're drift compatible, but they have different personalities, and then obviously they follow that up with Mako.
Also, you can make the argument of one's the left brain and one's the right brain. So which one likes to draw and which one likes algebra?
That is literally sort of the correlation, which, okay, there was a minor, like, nerdy technical detail that they didn't address in this movie, which I was super bummed about, which is that does the person on the left control the right arms of the Jaeger, and does the person on the right control the left arms of the Jaeger? Because that's how the human brain works. I was very much expecting that to be addressed, but I don't think it was.
I think it was just, you had to pay attention.
Uh-huh.
It seemed almost like that they were having to work literally in sync, and it was literally...
Well, no, because you'd see, like, it was like, okay, we need this cannon that is located on one specific arm, so the other person would do that.
Okay.
Yeah, and it would come to the point where one of the pilots was injured in one of the arms that pilot was responsible for, and therefore that arm on the Jaeger was no longer usable.
Yeah, at the same time, you would see different parts in which both pilots are fighting in the exact same way the Jaeger is. So maybe that's when they need to concentrate more and trying to put all of the energy, say, into a single punch. So whenever they are trying to...
I would almost imagine it as, once you're in the drift with each other, your default state is for your body's actions to mirror the other person's body's actions. It's like,
okay.
Maybe one of them is leading and the other is
Moreover,
following in dance terms.
Even when you're making a right hook, it's not just that arm that's moving. The rest of you is in some way moving.
Exactly. So yeah, like your left knee...
You can't stay totally, like, locked still and punch somebody. See, even here, like, all this is moving.
Okay, fair point.
So the punch that had a rocket in the elbow. Pixie will tell you that I'm a big fan of Vanquish, and so I think this might just make me a fan of Pacific Rim almost by default.
Yeah, that was a very Japanese moment there.
Did you even play Vanquish?
No, I didn't play Vanquish, but you had rockets in your knees. What more do you need to know?
Fair point.
See, Sen and I played Vanquish and described one of the means by which we moved from out in the open into cover as a power slide boosted by rockets, and, well...
Well, they had that in multiplayer of Mass Effect 3.
You literally were on your knees like you were doing a rock ballad power slide, and then there were rockets there that propelled you forward.
It was awesome.
That would really make baseball a very interesting sport if you added those in. But yes.
Do you heard us, like, MLB, call us, we can make baseball interesting again.
Rockets on every joint.
Rockets on the back of the bat, rockets on the helmets. If somebody if somebody gets beamed with the baseball, like in their crotch, then their helmet just flies off as an indication of their surprise, like it's a comic.
But
No, it should be like, it'll be like Rock'em Sock'em Robot, the head just...
Yeah, that's how they're defeated.
What we all are saying here is that rocket punches are awesome. But something else when you were mentioning about the whole Rock'em Sock'em Robots, the head popping off, they were being not so subtle in referencing that at the very beginning. The two pilots get into a plug, which literally comes down and literally has to be screwed into the rest of the body. And obviously they're on the other side of the world because they're going left to tighten it in, not right. Did anyone else notice that? Did that only bug me? Am I just being crazy?
I did not notice that, although I wish I had.
Seriously, you go on it, it's going left, and I was thinking it's righty-tighty, not you're doing it backwards.
And of course, this is only... The problem is only expounded by the fact that we were fortunate enough to be in a crappy enough theater that no one was there at the showing we went to, and so, of course, we're just talking along as loudly as possible.
Yes, we're MST3 carrying the whole thing.
And so he's next to me yelling at the screen about how you need to twist it the other way.
It genuinely bothered me, okay? I've been working with drills and hammers for a long time. I like building stuff. I would like to build one of those robots myself, too, in any case. But that was just the thing, that was the only thing that really bugged me, was that the robot's head was screwed on the wrong way. No, okay.
So, zombies are the typical mechanism of sort of making a common enemy for humanity to unite against that makes us abandon our old social structures of war. Like, most notably, people in the Middle East are shooting each other right now at great expense to everybody, and they could be researching how to build giant robots. And I feel like the kaiju provide a very interesting imperative for scientific advancement that is like, hey, humanity, you can't just be dicking around right now. You have to get your stuff together, and you have to move up the tech tree, or you're gonna die. And I like that sort of external threat uniting humanity, because, like, for a lot of the early part of the movie, everybody thought the kaiju were fairly well contained.
And that was even what the entire intro was about. How it was originally going bad, and then it was suddenly going good.
And then we got super cocky, and I feel like the not continuing the Jaeger program is a little sketchy, because, okay, clearly there's a lot of popular support for the Jaeger program if they have this pop cultural.
I think the problem was the destruction in the city and the loss of life, and also the loss of life and destruction from the pilots being killed who are piloting.
Right.
I mean, that's no more so than, soldiers who die on the field of war.
But
They seem to act like that is we're in some future where nobody's aware of the fact that soldiers die.
Yeah, like the Jaeger pilots,
Like,
okay.
it's an insult or, like, totally unfathomable to suggest that, maybe these people we put on the front lines of combat might, die.
Perish the thought.
Granted, the Jaeger pilots are clearly the best of the best of the best, sure, but are they dying at, like, rates of, like, 10 a month? Like, those death rates are ridiculously marginal on a worldwide scale.
Yeah, because you have this giant, you have this literal weapon of mass destruction, and only 2 people die when one goes down, hypothetically, assuming that they don't, like, collapse it on the middle of Main Street.
Well, that's the other thing. Are the whole robots actually going down, or is it just the pilots themselves getting overstressed or something and dying? Because really, I don't mean any offense by this or anything, but I think the loss of the giant fighting robot's a bit more of a problem than the pilots, because as we've seen, it's not that hard to run into apparently 2 people that get along so well and then can pilot it. Because, I'm sorry, I'd much rather have a giant robot fighting on my side than a couple extra dozen men or something. I don't know. But yes, the idea of they're losing so many...
Oh yeah, but that gives them, this allows them to shoehorn in the underdog thing, so that you can root for them while they're down and out. Because obviously it's like, oh yeah, this is a wildly popular program that's having wild success doesn't create any drama. It's like, we've only got 3 of these things left and like 2 months to be able to use them all is like, much more pressing.
It seems like the only sane response on the part of humanity would be to build the coastal wall and then also maintain your fleet of Jaegers for a decade or 2 while the coastal wall proves itself. Not just be like, yeah, this wall's gonna be done soon, so before we've ever actually crashed any, kaiju in it, let's just totally get rid of the Jaegers so that we don't have a fallback plan.
Also, I love that they just straight up call them kaiju.
Yes, that is awesome.
And we get a nice translation of both of the words at the very beginning of the whole movie. But then, of course, when we need to try to figure out how to get the Jaeger program off the ground and destroy all the kaiju, we get our crack scientists, also known as Huey and Dewey. I don't know. We get
The 2 ridiculous nerds.
Yes, we get Charlie Day and Bern Gorman, 2 who are...
It's the comedy relief.
And seriously, the wacky scientists. We get one who wears
Young
glasses.
and got like weird new age ideas about like psychically communing with the kaiju, and then the other one who's all like, I'm old and rigid and British, and therefore we're gonna stick with numbers and facts that will somehow turn out to be wrong, which means, again, we come down on the side of feelings over facts, which I don't like as a theme.
No.
Also love how they make Charlie Day a kaiju fanboy. That's an extra bit of, why not?
Yeah, I don't know. That seems a little bit weird to me, like, why we would enlist somebody's help in an organization who seems to kind of be rooting for the other side.
I mean, there's a whole know your enemy and such like that, but he really...
But he's literally covered in tattoos, like, in love with these things.
Yeah, to a creepy
like,
degree here.
You don't enlist SS officers to help fight the Nazis, to God win this.
Well, kind of. I mean, Warner von Braun did good work.
Okay, let's steer clear back to the giant monsters and before we get way too off track here.
I guess if your scientist is smart enough and they're gonna do the research you need done, that works. But the 2 characters were definitely ridiculous caricatures. Like, they there's a thematic thing where they're 2 very different people and they were fighting with each other. But then at the very end, they come together to use the neural link with the baby kaiju. Okay, hold on. Let's go to the line, she's pregnant. And all of our heads will explode.
Because they don't appear to be mammalian at all, and also aren't these, like, artificially harvested anyway? Like, aren't these, like, grown in a lab?
And if they're clones, are they genetically reproducing? Are they cloning themselves, but still internal to their bodies? That's weird.
It was quite confusing.
Because it's not like we ever saw any kaiju bumping uglies.
But also, that is
you
like
really
the
just say that?
Deus Ex Machina est Deus Ex Machina. Because it's
Sorry.
like, okay, we need this brain, and we have no way to get this brain. And, okay, the one chance that we knew about is ruined. There's nothing that has been set up or foreshadowed in any way that the viewer would know about. And then let's just solve this out of nowhere instantly.
I'm sorry, no kaiju bumping uglies? Did you really just say that? Really? Really? Huh?
To be fair,
yeah.
the uglies would be very ugly.
Well,
I
yes,
was
we
gonna
saw.
say, that's the most of them, really.
Yes, true. Although, when you stop and think about this, there might be a little bit of an extra message under all this. As Pixie pointed out, a giant lady part in the ocean is spitting out giant hideous monsters, and one of them happens to have a newborn that ends up eating Ron Perlman. Do you think this is just a giant anti-kids movie, or am I just reading too much into it?
I would like it if it was, but I don't think it is.
Yeah, I think you're reading stuff into it that's not even there.
But Ron Perlman does get eaten by a baby kaiju, though.
He does. And then he survives, which was also super cheesy.
Well, why not? Ron Perlman, he can survive anything.
I guess I don't know how I feel about the tonal dissonance. It was almost like Shakespearean between there's these real, like, significant character scenes and there's drama and stuff, but the goofy stuff is just super goofy.
Like the little stinger at the end of the movie. I don't know if you sat through the credits.
I did.
Where he just, like, yells, "Where's my goddamn shoe?"
Like, well, one of those ridiculous scientist caricatures has it. Go find him.
And he turned into quite a panicky little mess in that shelter. Also, okay, lost my train of thought there. But you were mentioning about the difference between the really goofy parts and the really serious parts. But even the really action serious parts can get rather goofy at times. For example, one of the kaiju crashes into the city, and the Jaeger pilots decide, what we're going to do, we're going to grab this giant ship and use it as a club. Doesn't that seem the slightest bit goofy at all?
I don't know. It seems like maybe I would hope that the logistics of fighting with a giant humanoid robot are kind of weird. Like, okay, theoretically, if you're really approaching fighting a kaiju and the solution to it really is do enough damage, then punches probably aren't the answer. Like, probably what you want to do is take the plasma cannons that they have in the arms and put them on orbital satellites and have the orbital satellites aimed at the South Pacific, and you're kind of good. But if once we're in this ridiculous situation where we're using a giant human-shaped robot to fight these kaiju, then maybe your best strategy for hitting it real hard is to use a boat.
Yeah, but then we get later on the fact that they all have swords. They all have giant swords of Thundera in their arms or something, I don't know. Seriously, I was expecting one of them to just put their hands together and have a glowing sword, just like Voltron or something.
I got sort of a Deus Ex Human Revolution from the sword coming out of the arm. It was like,
Yep.
I am Adam Jensen.
Oh, that'd be more of the sunglasses coming out of the cheekbones. Which is still pretty dang cool.
Uh-huh.
But seriously though, if you have a giant sword in your arm, why would you not use that all the time? I mean, yes, a plasma gun is all well and good, but that uses up a lot of energy, as we've seen, or run out of shots. But if you have a giant sharpened blade, why don't you just use that every time, jab it up the kaiju's head, and be done with it? Because that isn't awesome, that's why.
Yeah, that didn't come out as often as it should have if it was a tool they had available. But it seemed very true to the anime source material. Like, this fit in its genre very well.
Yes, very much so. I mean, it was even said by Hideo Kojima that it was every fanboy's responsibility to go see this movie. Pixie, you saw that, right?
So which?
Hideo Kojima's tweet about this?
Yeah, I told you about that, you dork.
Yes, but you didn't record it.
Fair enough. Yeah, he was going on, and I only saw this because, Bob Chipman, also known as Movie Bob on the Escapist Network, retweeted it on Twitter, but he was apparently saying that it's, like, basically the patriotic duty of the Japanese to see this movie, to paraphrase.
Mm-hmm. And you also pointed out it was rather interesting. It was a Japanese director.
Oh, no, it's a Japanese genre film starring a Brit, directed by a Mexican.
And published in America. How American is that?
It's a melting pot.
Exactly. We just want everything, we just wanted to take from everything.
I wonder if there was any thoughts of ever making this animated at any point. based on only that the genre it comes from and is adhering so closely to is traditionally animated. And boy, do I want, like, huge AAA blockbusters in the United States to potentially be animated in the future. I think that is an underutilized medium. Things don't gotta be live action, peeps. Animation ain't for kids.
Yeah,
but animation's also expensive.
Also, let's think about this here. Would this have been
Time-consuming.
nearly as interesting or nearly as eye-catching to most people had it been animated? Because let's face it, this kind of thing is
It doesn't have mass appeal because, well, I mean, look at people like, this is going to sound weird to reference another podcast, but a really old episode of another podcast, but Bernie Burns, the guy behind Rooster Teeth, was having problems. He could not convince his wife to see James Cameron's Avatar because, oh, there's blue cat people. This is a cartoon, and I would see a cartoon.
Right. So, I guess it is exactly that perception that I want to fight against, but maybe I'm taking the wrong tact by trying to get this weird, goofy movie to represent animation for the American public. I would rather have, like Superman represent animation to the American public, so it would seem marginally less foreign at first.
Even then, like, that's kind of less mainstream. As it is, there was, that huge thing about whether the Lone Ranger and Man of Steel were too dark for children, and these need to have mass appeal. Which, by the way, after seeing the Is the Lone Ranger Too Dark for Kids thing, it's still really weird for me to walk past a display at, like, a GameStop or something, and see that the Lone Ranger character is in that, what's that, like, Lego-looking, like, Disney toy box game coming out?
Oh, yes, Disney's coming out with some
Infinity.
sort of, like...
Yes,
No,
thank
yes. Disney's wannabe open world where everything is... Well, every
All
single
the
Disney...
properties, yeah.
And there's one in particular we've seen where Captain Jack Sparrow comes face to face with Tonto from The Lone Ranger. And Pixie, you point out that, well, neither of those movies are particularly appropriate for kids. And yet they're being showcased in this game, which is obviously trying to be for everyone, but particularly kids.
Mm-hmm. Because, again, they're cartoony and cute and they look like toys.
Okay, so I think you're right, but I want to take us on a tangent real quick. What is, like, the most mainstream movie that people accept as totally normal that we could, like, shift to animation to make people think animation isn't cartoons for kids?
Man.
Well, that'd be hard to do, because really...
There's
Maybe,
no, like,
Lord
one
of the
movie.
Rings?
Well, Lord of the Rings...
Those are, like, 3 hours long and very, very, like, slow-paced and not enough tight cuts in those. Are you kidding? That's not, like, the main genre blockbuster.
Also, there already was an animated versions of those, and still people think those are a bit too childish. There was even an animated version of The Princess Bride, and most people see that as ridiculously childish too, because it looks like something out of a Disney direct-to-DVD release.
I didn't know there was an animated movie of The Princess Bride. I want to see that now.
Yeah, I think it might have been an extra on a DVD or something, but...
I guess Pixie and I were talking about the 101 Dalmatians, which went backwards on that. Animated.
Which started out as an animated.
It became even more cartoony when it went to real life. At least how I saw it. Mm. But no, I can't really think of anything that could be put into... that's live action that would be put into animation that wouldn't somehow still make everyone think, oh, look what they did to this.
Yeah, what would happen then is if you tried to take an adult property and animate it, is the mommy brigade would come out and be like, how dare you try and advertise this adult material to children? Because by animating it, that automatically means that children is your market.
Because there's still that misunderstanding of that animation does not always mean for kids.
Mm-hmm. Which is why, at least when I was in high school, there was that big stigma around anime as being, like, this nothing but hentai, basically, cartoonified porn, and by cartoonifying porn, that's just way worse than regular porn. Good old-fashioned American porn.
Yeah, basically, unless you actually know the entire mindset behind anime and the fact that it's its own genre altogether.
I don't know, I see it argued at me when I'm like, I don't watch anime, I don't really like it as a genre. People will argue at me that it's a medium, not a genre. It seems like a genre to me because it's got all those weird self-referential things in it.
Well, the thing is, there's so many differences between...
I'm hearing pyrosim audibly sigh at me.
No, you're actually hearing my push to talk coming on and off.
Well, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking that what anime is a big genre. Like, you're right that it has a lot of defining characteristics, but it's an art style, sort of, that tends to come from a place, and you don't want to say that people who were born and raised in this country are only capable of creating animated work in this genre, but a lot of the main staples of that genre have a lot of common story characteristics. So I think that it's a big genre. It's maybe got like a couple of subgenres inside of it.
Well, the thing is, the term animation is very all-encompassing because there are so many different kinds of it. When you say animation, you could mean something like James Cameron's Navi, or you could mean something like Pixar and WALL-E. And yes,
I guess we sort of have to qualify that a lot of this movie is animated. It's just animated in a photorealistic way. Because, I mean, they didn't build these robots.
Yeah, because the way... When people say something like anime, that's usually what Pixie was saying, when usually people are just thinking of it as drawn porn. It's just,
I feel like there's less of that stigma now, although that could just be that I personally know more about the genre because I'm older.
Maybe you hang out with people who know more about the genre.
Yeah, so that might not... I might be speaking only that my own idea of what it is has broadened rather than people's idea in general as a society.
But the thing is, I have difficulty saying terms...
Although, it's like... I don't know. I was the one person in my university Japanese class who did not watch anime.
Well, here's the thing, though. Especially in America, it's difficult to qualify things that are animated but are not technically cartoons. Because, take, for example, Batman, the animated series. That you would not exactly qualify as a cartoon.
I don't know. To me, it totally was.
Well, it's just usually and this is just me speaking from my point of view.
It was really freaking good.
Well, yeah, but cartoon always refers to something like Looney Tunes or Animaniacs or something.
Or the Sunday comics.
Exactly, Sunday comic type thing, where everything is meant to be much more.
I don't know. It feels almost like you're shoehorning cartoon to mean a Western cartoon.
Well, that's just it. It could be the fact that the main. In America, what most people in general know of as far as animation is...
That could be it, too, that anime is used as a medium to communicate more things in Japan. It has less of that stigma there than it does here.
Because most of the time here, everything that was drawn was either Disney or cartoons.
Or, Warner Brothers.
Or Warner Brothers, or something, exactly.
To Japanese people, anime is just sort of their word to describe moving pictures that are not video from a video camera.
The Miyazaki movies, like all of that, they tackle more stuff than over here we make cartoons specifically as these are here to entertain / babysit our children and shut them up for a few hours.
It's Care Bears versus, again, Miyazaki against Princess Mononoke Spirited Away.
You could still stick a kid in front of Totoro and it would probably shut them up for a bit, but it's not
that kid would have
the same.
nightmares about the cat bus for the rest of its life.
Let's not get into that right now, but the fact of the matter is, animation means something totally different in Japan than it does over here, and what Pacific Rim is trying to do in live action would not be the same thing here in America if it was animated, because it would just be seen as another form of anime, because that is what it is. It's giant robots fighting giant monsters, which has been a long-standing plot line in different animes already.
More to the point, it's already that the kaiju genre is not taken seriously out here because it is Godzilla is literally the example for people to dismiss Japanese film as like really dumb and not having a lot of structure.
Of just a bunch of guys in rubber suits or boxes just fighting each other on miniature sets.
bad subtitles or dubbing. It's just...
Yeah, that's the first thing I think of as the stereotypical Western perception of Godzilla, is like the voiceover saying, Gojira, and then a person's lips moving for like 30 seconds. That's clearly like 2 sentences.
So, yeah, it seemed like what Pacific Rim was trying to do was trying to break that mold and showing, because this is the first time that you were able to get a really big budget doing these sort of kaiju films, and doing it the way that they always wanted to be done. Making them everything that you could do in an anime, but wanted to do in a live-action film. It's just like James Cameron with Avatar, just had to wait for the technology to come out. So as you can imagine, yeah, I liked it. I think all three of us liked it.
There was a lot to like about it. I thought it was super good.
And also, the lady who's playing Mako or Mako, Rinko
Kikuchi.
She would be a dead ringer to be Faith in a live-action Mirror's Edge.
Yeah, that I was being rather struck by her like facial structure and haircut during that.
She is Faith from Mirror's Edge come to life.
No, at least physically.
Yes.
Definitely not as a character.
Well, no. But, yes.
No, Riko Rikuchi is just like this ridiculous parkour artist. You don't even know. Like, she's just running all over France.
I'm trying to say that so that you don't so that people don't expect Mako to look like, or Mako to act like Faith.
Right.
Yeah, but that's a whole other can of worms right there. But it's just that she had the entire look and presence of Faith, and she could have easily played her, is what it was all of. And yes, her parkour skills were very evident but I don't know, is there anything else we can add into this? The effects were amazing, the music was...
There was...
And there was a bulldog. There was a bulldog in there, too.
Yeah, and so, we spent some time fawning over how cute he was, despite the fact that the man holding his leash was, I guess, supposed to be an antagonist. I'm not really sure. That didn't really go anywhere for me. And also, I just kept thinking, like, he and his father figure looked too much alike for me to tell them apart.
Yeah, those two and the father, and even the main character, all of them looked alike. I kept getting them mixed up. They all looked the exact same haircuts and the whole and same facial structure.
Okay, so Pyro, you confuse balding middle-aged dudes. I apparently seem to confuse young light-haired men who are way too muscular.
Yeah, apparently I do too. I don't know.
I couldn't tell those two apart.
I couldn't tell those three apart.
Yeah, even the dad was, like, way too close.
I could distinguish the main character from the two side characters, but not the side characters from each other.
It was difficult. All I know is I'm glad the bulldog survived because he was so adorable.
Oh.
I wanted to see him. I wanted to see him in his own. I want to see him in his own Jaeger, giant dog Jaeger. Wouldn't that be awesome?
That actually sounds super cool. Yes.
Come on, build a giant dog.
Well, yeah, I mean, because they used to have, like, attack war dogs. That would kind of make sense.
So why not attack giant robots?
Does a dog Jaeger have to be piloted by two dogs?
Do they have to be the same breed? Would it have to be like a bulldog and a chihuahua?
No, they don't even have to be the same breed. They just have to be the same temperament. You just have to find two individual dogs who are drift compatible.
and so what do they bring into the drift?
Thoughts of chasing cars and biting mailmen.
That one time they finally caught their tail, and that's what gives them the last push.
I feel like a memory of catching your own tail would be like bittersweet. It's like I was chasing it and then it hurt, and that wasn't great.
The problem would be though, then the kaiju would just come with giant meat bones and throw it over into the Atlantic Ocean. Woof splash, woof splash. So there you go. So I hope the kaiju aren't listening, otherwise they would discover our plans for giant robot attack dogs.
Because the kaiju listen to obscure podcasts.
Of course, that's how they conquer us. They listen to our podcasts.
Anywho, so what do we think of Pacific Rim? We should probably move on.
I want to do one more bit, because you might have something to say about this, Pixie. On the wall of the mysterious suits who control the world, we saw like 5 or 6 men and 1 woman, and like 3 of the men talked, and the woman did not talk. And also, outside...
She just kind of gave a stern look. That's about it.
Yeah, there was a point...
Not quite that. There we go.
Sorry, continue.
There was a point outside the general's office where the male lead got in a fight with the younger side character, who we cannot distinguish from anybody, over the side character insulting Mako. And shouldn't Mako have been fighting him? What did you think of that, Pixie?
I actually brought this up during the movie, but I was like, why is he fighting over her like she's an object? She knows martial arts!
She knows martial arts really goddamn well!
We just established not 2 scenes, actually just 1 scene ago, that she can fight equally, if not better than him.
So, yeah.
This idea of... I don't even know that this would fall under benevolent sexism, but the trying to fight to defend a lady's honor thing is total crap.
In fact,
she is perfectly capable of fighting for herself if she wants.
But yes, I'm glad you brought that up, Pyro, because there's something else I was thinking. Once that fight scene was going on...
This is like, great way to make things way more awkward for me at lunchtime.
Exactly, but it also made me think, the main character in Mako, I don't know how to pronounce Mako.
I don't know, it's spelled Mako here on the IMDb page, but...
Well, Mako, whatever. Well,
the way the character who is the vehicle from Mass Effect 1.
Anyway, I thought it would have been interesting... if in the whole movie, her and the main guy, if their roles had actually been reversed. If she had actually lost, like, her brother or her sister in the first attack, and then she had gone away and come back, and it had been the guy who had been saved by the Colonel and had him as the pseudo-father figure. I thought that would have actually been more interesting.
Well, alternatively, I feel like the scene where Mako started chasing the rabbit in the test drift, we did not know what her trauma was at that point.
Yeah, so then it just shows that she's a woman who is, like, being weak and hysterical and incompetent in this moment of stress, and see, if you give a woman power and responsibility, they clearly can't handle it.
Maybe the first third of the movie should have been introducing her trauma rather than introducing his trauma.
That's why it might have been better following her
instead. Because, then he hops back in it like, no big D. So, this also, like, kind of harms... perpetrates this harmful idea of men as perpetually stoic and not showing any emotion. Of course, that isn't anger.
And of course, showing that that's a good thing, too. Not only that they are the only ones who can do it, but also that's the better way to go.
So, I'm really into this idea that Snake and I discussed about gender flipping the 2 main characters.
Like, what would happen? Yeah, seriously, I think it would have been better if we'd been
Having
following...
him be the more emotionally fragile of the two.
Yeah, because I still would have bought it. In fact, it would have been more interesting if he
Because,
was...
you know...
I mean, especially in a military sense, where, let's say we're still going with the typical gender stereotypes, it's expected of him to constantly push out the emotions and not think about that stuff. What would it be like if he just couldn't help it and it was piled on top of the fact of what was really expected of him? That would have been just as interesting. And then having to help him out through all of it, even though she's gone through loss as well. That, I thought, would have made it much more interesting.
So she lost her family when she was very young. And he lost his brother while sharing his brother's memories.
Mm-hmm.
And
that sounds like it would be way more, like, traumatic.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny to think how those different things would affect a person differently because, okay, when you're young, you don't have the tools for dealing with your own mind. You're not very good at thinking about your own thoughts. So maybe that screws you up for a while. But when you're an adult, your relationships with people have a lot more substance to them. Like, when you're a 5-year-old,
Also, like, how freaking traumatic must it be to feel what someone feels as they die in a horrifically violent way, full of fear.
That seems bad.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
I mean-
directly experiencing that.
Yeah, seriously, the other guy would have felt his brother
Being sad
literally as he was
over...
dying.
I don't mean to trivialize anybody's grief, but they're fictional characters, so, you know, whatever.
And continue.
But, like, directly experiencing that loss in a way firsthand, rather than being sad because you are the person left behind. I feel like there's a certain difference of scale there.
That would have been interesting too. What if it wasn't?
That should have been explored more on an internal emotional sense, I think.
Yeah, why didn't they bring up the fact that he was? That it
They
wasn't
just
just.
kind of toss it out there and then it's like forgotten about, basically.
Yeah, he said that he didn't want to go back
It
to
is
the.
only used as a plot device to explain why he doesn't have somebody to pilot the suit.
Yeah, it was also he was saying he just didn't want to experience that loss again. Why didn't he have that moment of or that flashback of feeling every single thing that was going through his brother's head, and he was actually
Or,
terrified of getting back into the Jaeger.
Show him having some nightmare shots or something.
Yes, anything like that. Again, show don't tell. Sorry, Pyro.
No, that was perfect. That's exactly what I was trying to lure out of you two.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, that's the other stuff I wanted to cover about Pacific Rim. What else did you see?
It was an awesome movie.
Oh
about
my god,
Green
we're already at an hour.
Okay, quick. Come on. This movie went really fast anyway.
Okay, so World War Z. It was only 116 minutes, starring Brad Pitt.
And a whole bunch of zombies.
And a whole bunch of zombies.
Oh, sorry. Wait, they called them Z's.
I don't know, the word zombie gets tossed around a bit.
About
Did
3 or
they
4
ever
times.
call them Zeds?
No.
No.
They called them zombies or Z's. Literally just the letter Z in plural.
At least it wasn't daisies.
In any case, this entire thing is almost
Now
like...
I'm just imagining the world being taken over by, like, an explosive, like, blossoming of flowers.
That's like that could be a Batman one-off with Poison Ivy. Getting, like, superpowered from a solar flare.
It'll be like Batman Daisy, only it's Daisy.
Anyway, can we get back to the zombies?
No, I think we have to phone DC and make a thing happen.
Okay, fine. You two plan out Daisy Man, fine.
Anywho, and then it could be like a big monster thing, like Clayface or the Croc, only it's like a great big flower thing.
And the only thing that can fight it off is a giant robot dog.
Yeah!
They are fine. Thank you, Warner Brothers. Send us a contract. World War Z. It's Brad Pitt versus the zombie apocalypse. So obviously they're doomed. This entire movie, it seems like it's starting out like it wants to be Cloverfield, and that's trying to show a disaster while it's happening, but you don't know all the specifics. Just boom, there it goes. It just starts as another typical day. And then
The
something goes-
problem is with, like, they do, like, the little establishment, like, how they're focusing. Can we spoil this? I mean, it came out a
Please
while ago,
do.
didn't it?
Spoilers.
Daisies.
Zzz. I'm done.
Anyway, so, like, the big thing that we figure out is, like, Brad Pitt plays Jerry Lane, this guy who, like, is from the UN, and he goes around trying to investigate the cause of the zombie outbreak so that they can try and, you know, reverse engineer a way to fix it. And, like, they show, like, when he happens to be at these places where these attacks happen, like, there's a little, like, shift in the camera and a focus on, like, one particular person that the zombies are ignoring, whether they're old or sick or whatever. And, like, the big thing that he figures out is, like, they are ignoring terminally ill people. And it's like, we could do with a lot more. It's like, you already showed us, you don't need to also tell us. They did way too much, like, explaining at us of that particular point.
Oh no, that sounds terrible.
Also, this would have been an okay generic zombie movie. It is not a World War Z movie. I know basically everybody said that, but because the book World War Z is written as a, what's the word, collection of stories, anthology, as a collection of other stories, and generally told after the apocalypse happened, like, this is not that, because they wanted to have a story that would star Brad Pitt and would follow one thing linearly.
And this was rather interesting, given the fact that the two of us got to see the movie in a different way. Pixie has actually read World War Z. I have not. So I went in there not knowing what exactly to expect.
And so he's all like, yeah, that was fine. And I was like, yeah, but, it wasn't this.
Because what I was seeing was every single zombie movie in the history of the universe crammed together in 120 minutes. I don't know, we just jump ahead very quickly on everything. Because as soon as we establish, okay, they're zombies, a guy gets bit. And then Brad Pitt accidentally knocks over his daughter's toy, which says, hey, can you count to 12? 1. And throughout the whole time, when it's counting to 12, you see this guy starting to transform, then get up on his feet, and after he says 12, then the guy starts running again. So then,
No, it's like, they get to, like, it's like a little, like, bear conductor thing, so he's all like, finishes to 12, he's like, the train's here! And then all of a sudden it's like, the zombie guy just stands stock straight up, arches his back, and you get, like, this wide shot, like, this very wild-eyed looking, and, like, his eyes have cleared over.
I am the conductor of the poop train!
Yeah, how did I know we were going to end up at that at some point? I'll give you a moment on.
Still funny.
My point simply was that they were trying to quickly go across every single zombie thing that we already know.
So that was a great, like, show don't tell, because it's all like, okay, he's transforming, it's going to take a few seconds, and, like, overlaying it, like, with the child's toy was, appropriately creepy. It's like, the stuff swarms over Philadelphia, and it's like, okay, you're expected to know these are zombies, and zombieism is transmitted by biting, because they don't really cover that at all.
We simply establish after this whole conductor bear is that it takes 12 seconds for you to turn. Okay, now we gotta keep moving. Alright, move on to the next scene. Okay, we run into a family of people, and they decide to actually help you out. Okay, then we have to have a quick moment where they say, you gotta come with us. No, we're not going to. And then you see them later turned into zombies. Okay, we gotta keep moving, It's almost like they're going down the zombie apocalypse checklist, and going through as quickly as possible. Because I swear, every 5 minutes we run into something else that we've seen before.
12-second zombies seems crazy fast. I kind of feel like zombies should take like 48 hours.
Well, that's the thing. These are very, very fast zombies. These are supposed to be like a flood, literally, of them. Because you always see them running like 10 times faster than a normal human can. Sometimes they'll be jumping off of the side of buildings and they'll start crashing.
It's like the zombies know parkour, and that's really weird.
Mm-hmm. Like instantly, that comes with the zombie
the point of the World War Z book, as I understood it, was that the real threat of the zombies was that they're this great unstoppable, like a tidal wave. They just keep freaking coming.
And that is what that is something they got across in this movie.
That there's too dang many of them, and you could take a dude in a fight, but you can't take 6 billion.
Because one of the establishing things they have in the trailer was a shot of a giant wall, and then huge piles of zombies just cramming into each other, start piling up higher and higher. It looks like an anthill suddenly climbing up, which was an awesome shot, by the way. I love that shot, because that's terrifying, because that's something
But they're moving fast like roaches, which is really weird.
Yeah, because that was the main thing I've heard my sister also complain about, and other people have read the book, in that they were not fast zombies. They were just zombies that never stopped. So, like you said, Pixie, the problem is that wouldn't work in a 2-hour continuous story about Brad Pitt, who seems to be the...
Yeah, they basically wanted to make an action movie.
And they did.
Which is great, but like, just make an original IP. Why you gotta slap this brand on it?
Because that way it got people who were familiar with the brand into the theater seats, and they could bank on that money.
But...
Also, everything's, like, based on something else at this point.
But again, though...
Original IPs aren't safe enough to invest in.
Yeah, but the only thing... We continue on with just all these different zombie movie tropes, and it keeps moving faster and faster. And like any other zombie movie where you have a plague, they have the one scientist guy that is probably the smartest person in the world and could probably cure this. He's given a gun, they land over in Korea, like 2 minutes on the ground, bam, he shoots himself in the head.
Wait, some zombies show up, and he turns tail and tries to run back up the ramp into the plane, slips on some rain on the ramp, and accidentally shoots himself in the head. There goes our brilliant virologist.
Tell me that what you just said to me is a blatant lie and nobody would ever make a scene that stupid in a movie, please?
Oh, it gets better. This is
And
after.
so that gives Brad Pitt an excuse to be all like, well, I have to investigate this by myself because now the only other person that we thought was going to be competent enough to problem solve this totally dead.
Also, we had him long enough so he could have his important speech of how Mother Nature is the world's greatest serial killer. I kid you not, that was a long dialogue. That was a long monologue of his, explaining about how Mother Nature is a killer who always loves being caught and trying to leave little breadcrumbs behind of how she did it, and that the way to solve the zombie apocalypse is that you need to look for the chink in the armor, which is actually disguised as its greatest asset or something like that. And then he shoots himself in the head. And then
Again, he screws up massively and out of incompetence accidentally shoots himself in the head by epic pratfall.
So
I believe this is an important distinction.
Yes.
He didn't suicide.
It was a
pratfall from which he died.
yeah.
with this smart person and the two smart people from Pacific Rim, I feel like, in general, aren't smart people just, like, kind of smart and not dumb? Why are all three of these smart people super dumb in their ways?
I honestly don't have an answer for you on that. But neither does World War Z, because it doesn't linger on very long. Because before you know it, he gets back on the plane and he's heading over to Israel.
Here it is. I've got the quote.
Oh, here we go.
Mother Nature is a serial killer. She wants to get caught. She leaves breadcrumbs. She leaves clues. Mother Nature knows how to disguise her weakness as strength. So that's from IMDb.
That's what he says right there while they're on the plane heading over to Korea. And Pixie pointed out that this movie is not only acting very fast, but it's like a series of unfortunate events, of things just unfortunately happening.
It's just a series of really terrible coincidences, like that guy slipping and shooting himself in the head.
And then later on, we established very quickly that the zombies are attracted to sound. So Brad Pitt and his army buddies are trying to refuel the plane, and they've got
they
bikes.
have to be very quiet. Yeah.
Brad Pitt and the pilot are riding bicycles through the rain, and then just when they're about to get there, his phone goes off.
He's got a sat phone, which his wife. He says he'll call his wife once a day on to let her know he's not dead. And she calls him. The phone rings, and then all of a sudden, Ermagerd zombies.
And then all of the army guys, everyone but Brad Pitt and this pilot all die.
Because they have to, finish the mission of refueling the plane, and now it is unsafe for them to also board while doing that.
So there you go. So, and that's just a series of unfortunate events. And then
There's another one where we get to Israel, and there's a whole bunch of people, singing and praying.
Because guess what? Here's another fun thing. You know what else is... Guess what Israeli's greatest asset in surviving the zombie apocalypse? Because they've actually been able to stave it off. You know what their plan was? Pyro, you gonna guess? You wanna guess?
Panic and shoot themselves in the head?
Nope.
Do a dance.
No.
Believing in bullshit, basically. They set up a 10-man system where it is... The way they explain this is we have, this council of... If 9 dudes unanimously agree on one thing, it is the 10th man's job to totally disagree with it and totally buy into the other idea, to force them to, more carefully analyze things. And so, because they heard somebody say the word a zombie in a radio transmission in India, and 9 of the dudes were like, this is bullshit, the one guy was all like, no, it's not, we should totally treat this as if it's valid.
And you know what his plan was?
Build a wall.
Build a giant wall around Israel.
Seems like walls aren't very effective solutions to problems this
They're
podcast.
sure not, because then people are singing and praying and being all like, yeah, we're safe behind a wall, thank you, God. And then, they're being too loud, and so all the zombies, come scrambling and pile up on the wall.
There's
and
the trailer shot.
Are able to climb over each other to do it.
They are attracted to the speakers of everyone praying, so they...
Oh yeah, because they're, singing and praying with the help of a couple of microphones.
And so all of the zombies are literally piling on top of each other and getting over the wall, and suddenly
this means? Prayer. Not even once.
Yeah, there you go. So the first movie was anti-kids, this one's anti-prayer.
Next time on Nerd Talk Reads Way Too Much Into Things.
Next time on Nerd Talk Reads Way Too Much Into Things, why you should never go to a tanning booth, I don't know. But yes, suddenly the wall is breached, and suddenly all this is doomed, and you know what this means? Everyone must help Brad Pitt survive. So what do? They break on board a charter flight. Oh, no, wait. We get this really awesome army lady. I don't know what her name was.
Sagan. She's
Sagan.
played by Daniela Kurtzets. She's awesome.
Oh, she kicks ass. She is totally awesome in this movie.
Then, unfortunately, she gets bit on the hand, and then Brad Pitt cuts her hand off.
Yeah, she gets bit on the hand by a zombie, and then Brad Pitt, in being all Brad Pitt and sagely, slices off her hand, counts to 12, and she doesn't turn.
Does she then get a lightsaber?
No.
She does get to drink shitty airline vodka while he uses said shitty airline vodka to disinfect the wound and change her stumpy bandages on the plane.
And then all of a sudden, guess what? We got zombies on the plane, because apparently snakes wasn't good enough.
Well, because apparently one guy wasn't feeling great and went into the loo and then turned and then burst out of the loo.
And then suddenly everyone in coach is suddenly turning into zombies. So Brad Pitt and company start trying to pile up a bunch of luggage.
So of course Brad Pitt's in first class.
Oh, yes. Yeah, Brad Pitt's in first class, and they all have to pile up a bunch of luggage to try to keep it away from him, but the zombies get through, and Brad Pitt fights off...
Who'd have thought that, a few stacks of carry-on luggage wouldn't stop a bunch of former humans running at full tilt?
Damn it. Well, there goes my zombie plan. I'm doomed then. But then the zombies get up to the front, but the kick-ass army chick saves Brad Pitt's... Yeah, Sagan. She saves Brad Pitt's life, and by shooting a bunch of them, because she had a handgun on the plane, and then they throw a grenade and blow up half the plane, and they all crash. But don't worry.
But those two survive, which is... They're the only important people, right? So.
Yes. Brad Pitt and the kick-ass one-handed army lady. Sagan is awesome. I want to see a movie about Sagan. She is worth the movie, because she is awesome. And then we get to a medical research facility.
She continues to be competent and helpful, despite, losing a freaking hand.
Also, she has a buzz cut.
What are the odds of an interesting female character not being the one that the narrative focuses on?
Yes.
Right.
But then we come to a research facility where Brad Pitt comes to his realization that, as Pixie said at the very beginning, the zombies all seem to be ignoring people that are fatally ill. So his plan is infect everyone with a deadly virus that is curable. But the problem is they need to get it on the other side of the building, which is infected with zombies.
And there's like 80 of them over there, and so they have to go all stealth mode and try and get the super deadly diseases and then test it. So Brad Pitt infects himself with some deadly pathogen that we don't know.
Okay, I will say this though. This is a cool setup.
And I was like, it would really suck if he picked Ebola out of one of those random bottles.
Oh, but here's something I have to admit is pretty cool. And I have to admit that this is a total spoiler, and all this is a spoiler because we basically been talking about the whole movie step by step, a la bum reviews. But anyway, Brad Pitt goes into this room where he has to get the deadly viruses, turns, and there's a zombie right outside the door. So his only chance of testing out his theory is to test out his theory, which I think is a cool setup. I mean, you could see it coming a mile away, but it was still pretty cool. And of course, it works. He infects himself with
something.
I don't know.
I'm pretty bummed by the non-specificness nature of this virus.
Yeah, it would have been nice.
Yeah, because they list a few. They're all like, well, here's a bunch of deadly diseases we have over there. But then by the time he goes, he just grabs a vial at random and
puts them into a lunchbox. But we don't know what he infected himself with, but it works. And then comes the best part of the whole movie and what this was all leading up to. Pixie, you want to say it? Brad Pitt drinks a Pepsi, knocks down a soda machine, all the zombies come running down a hallway, and he just is casually walking as they all ignore him. So basically, all this was a big line-up to Pepsi, the official soft drink of the zombie apocalypse.
Is that like really they say that and they do that?
No, it's like literally the next shot is of him leaning against a wall, drinking a can of Pepsi next to a Pepsi machine. He knocks over the Pepsi machine, being all like, I don't give a fuck.
He's making noise to get the zombies' attention.
Okay,
he just swaggers on over there with his Pepsi and his, like, thing of supplies that he grabbed.
Like, the stinger to evolution is Head and Shoulders shampoo will save you from aliens, and they literally do a... They literally do a Head and Shoulders commercial after the credits, like a 30-second TV spot, and I would feel better about World War Z if they put a television commercial inside of it.
Well, they basically did.
Because, like I said, that was a very long shot.
It was a very long... I mean, Brad Pitt didn't have the logo to camera when he was drinking it, but you could see the logo when he got out of the machine.
You could see the logo on the machine behind him, and it was a blue can with a little wave on it.
And you could see all the cans falling out of the machine when he did that, too. So, again, this was all leading up to a giant Pepsi commercial.
Yep.
I'm sorry to spoil that for you there, but that's what this is. World War Z...
It was basically the funniest thing in the whole movie, though.
Oh, yeah, it was hysterical. It was dopey, but it was funny just because it almost seemed like it seemed like the director and all the film crew knew, let's just own up to it. This is obviously just going to be us shooting a Pepsi commercial at the very end here, so it was quite hilarious. And then they just end with a typical quick montage of him meeting his family again, them sending a pathogen around to everybody, and all is right with the world, blah, 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 blah.
I would like the alternate ending of, okay, he figures this out, he infects himself, he walks back to society using his immunity, And then he's like, all right, I need you to cure me. And they're like, we can do that. What did you infect yourself with? I don't know. Like, maybe smallpox, I guess? I'm not sure.
Well, no, because he's at the World Health Organization. I imagine they can just prick him for something
Also,
and look at it under a microscope.
actually, there could have been an interesting way of working World War Z 2. What'd you infect yourself with? The rage virus. Damn it!
Now I'm a totally different type of zombie. And then it's like, what's the Will Smith movie where the zombies are vampires and he's the
I
last
Am
human?
Legend.
I Am
KP
Legend.
virus.
So then we have like a society of zombies versus a different type of zombies.
Rage zombies against KP zombies. You get zombies against zombie vampires. Actually, that'd be cool.
So dumb.
Zombie versus zombie. Why not? Hey, there's something. Why isn't there a parody video like that? Slow zombies versus fast zombies.
Because
The fast zombies would win very easily.
The ones that can move faster will win.
I don't know. I guess. Also, this was something else. This movie has to.
They have all of the benefits of slow zombies, plus they can move fast.
Okay, fair point. But here's something else a little interesting. For this being a zombie movie, this is a surprising lack of gore.
Yeah, like, they keep doing, like, little cutaways from things before they happen, but I was like, and I called it, this is PG-13.
Yeah, Brad Pickett's is
Which is weird, because it's like, if they're not human at that point, the MPAA would tend to generally be lenient.
Yeah, but then
Maybe they just didn't want to have to recut things.
But then again, like when Brad
Find
Pitt
it really
cuts off her hand, you don't actually see it, and there isn't even any real blood around the stump.
Yeah.
When he gets his crowbar stuck in the zombie's head, you don't see
very much
it.
lack of gore. It's a very clean zombie movie, if that makes any sense.
It's that's strange. I mean, you'll see drops of blood, and Brad Pitt gets a little bloody, but it's nothing.
No, it's like he gets like pretty Hollywood blood, like a little bit of like dark red or brown on his temple or
Just
something.
looks a little sexy.
It's like Shepard at the end of Mass Effect 3.
There you go. But yeah, it's a surprisingly very gory zombie movie, and
Which is hugely ironic next to the bit I was reading earlier today of some article I found on Twitter.
Oh boy, here we
about
go.
How the MPAA was allowing so much gore in the new Wolverine movie to get a pass because mutants aren't human, and therefore, any harm that befalls them is less traumatizing.
Try to figure that one out.
What?
Mutants aren't human, therefore their trauma is not ours.
So
This is crazy.
yeah, that was kind of my reaction too.
Mutants aren't human, they just have, like, human-level intelligence and character traits, and also human-shaped bodies.
So yeah, I don't really know what else there is to talk about this movie because we basically just told the whole movie right there.
All in all, I'm
It
sort
really
of getting
wasn't
the
worth your
impression
time,
that
so
I don't want to
we
see
just
it.
We just saved you all of the hassle.
I mean, really, if you want to watch a good zombie movie, go watch 28 Days Later or even Warm Bodies. That was a good
That
one.
was really more of a rom-com than
Well, still, it was a zombie movie. Okay, fine. Go watch Zombieland. Go watch that instead.
yeah,
If
that's
you want to
true.
watch an apocalypse movie that turns out to be a product commercial, go watch Evolution. That's pretty good.
There you go. But yeah,
I remember when I was a small child, my parents used to designate this as my job, where we would buy movies on pay-per-view, like from our satellite provider, and you'd have a license to watch it from that channel all day. And so we would have the VHS thing, and my job would be to put in a blank VHS tape and make a copy of the movie, which is totally piracy now that I'm thinking about it.
Pyro,
Yeah, but it was
see?
piracy in the 90s. It was like, we didn't hate it then.
So I distinctly remember drawing the little three-eyed smiley face on the spine of that one.
Nice.
So, in any case, World War Z is okay, but wait for it to come out on Spike or TNT or something like that, because it's worth watching, but not really worth paying for, I'd say. Between the two, I'd much rather go see Pacific Rim again.
At the end of Pacific Rim, I was very, very close to walking out to the box office, buying a ticket for the next showing, and walking back into the theater. Like, I seriously considered that.
Admittedly, I would
Revolving door!
I immediately would have liked to see this on a bigger screen, because we saw it on one, like Pixie said, on the rather...
We were in a really crappy theater that didn't even have stadium seating.
So, yeah. So, thankful...
So it was really good that nobody else showed up.
We probably would have talked anyway. So, yeah. Between the two, we
It was
recommend...
literally in the middle of nowhere. Like, there was a porn store and a Chili's, like,
And
half a mile away.
And a hardware store. But what we're saying is, if you have two movies you want to see, go see Pacific Rim twice.
I
you
endorse
go.
this.
That's our recommendation. Even though it's been out for a while. Both of these have been out for a while. We need to go see something else at some point.
Next week, is it just me, or, RIPD has been receiving huge marketing, and I could not be less interested in it.
Apparently it sucks.
It's gotten between 11 and 12% on Rotten Tomatoes, and well, I'm not surprised, to be honest. I mean, you can see what they were trying for, but it's looking like it's trying to be Men in Black with a bit of Ghostbusters in it, and failing at both.
I am the most irrational Hugh Jackman fan you will ever find, but I don't think Wolverine looks very interesting.
Oh, you didn't like the giant robot samurai?
I guess maybe. I don't know, the trailer didn't do anything for me.
I was speaking ironically. Well, it kind of all makes no sense to me, because the major geek in me just says, why would Logan want to give up his immortality? And also, more to the point, how would they be able to do that given the fact that's his mutant power, not what was done to him?
And it's like, for the tendency of comic book movies to reboot themselves constantly, this one is a sequel to like 2-3 real bad movies in a row. And then Seventh Son was a trailer that I saw before Pacific Rim. It didn't look very interesting to me. So, I don't know. Hollywood has been doing real well in terms of the movies that I have actually seen, but I don't know what's coming up that I'm interested in.
Elysium. I definitely want to see Elysium.
Okay, I would go see Elysium.
Because it's some of the same people that did District 9, which I loved, and Matt Damon can be really great. And also, it seems to be very much related to a manga that my brother and I love to read, Battle Angel, which is basically about people living down in the junkyard and people living up above in paradise. So, with machines and robots and such. But I definitely want to see that. But that's the only one I could think of what's coming up soon.
Excellent.
So, we've been rambling on for a while now, haven't we?
Yeah, and we kind of took some weird side turns, but hopefully that was sensical.
So what we've learned today on Nerd Talk is robot dogs are awesome. Kids are monsters that come out of the ocean. Zombie movies can be told in
That's where babies come from.
yes, a evil vagina in the ocean. Religion will get you attacked by massive numbers of zombies. And Brad Pitt is Jesus.
The zombies in The Last of Us are actually plants, and so, if the Daisy movie that we're making, give me your answer,
I didn't know this about The Last of Us, so it's basically The Happening?
Yeah. The virus is spread by spores, and they're the bodies of the zombies.
So it is totally The Happening.
Yes.
It is the plants are malicious and are mad at us for stepping on the grass.
So it's not plants versus zombies, it's plants making zombies.
The dark alliance between plants and
that
zombies
scene in
will
The
destroy
Happening
mankind.
where, like, the scientist guy is looking at the board and, like, trying to figure all this out and then suddenly goes, "It's the plants!" is the funniest moment in cinema ever.
What, ma'am? No, the wind, what? I don't know. I never saw it.
No, I just want to go watch The Happening.
Also, JSYK, the new Whose Line Is It Anyway, hosted by Aisha Tyler, is awesome.
It's the same thing as...
It is on the CW on, I think, Tuesday nights?
Probably. We could take a look.
But, yeah, you should check it out. I've only seen the first episode, but it's amazing and exactly what fans of the original Whose Line are going to watch.
It's the old Whose Line, but with
modern stuff.
With modern references. They referenced Walking Dead in the first episode.
They had a guest actress appearance from The Walking Dead in the first episode. It was really cool.
Also, Wayne Brady's back, too, and everybody loves Wayne.
This
And
pleases
Carl
me.
Bacher's back, too.
Well, yeah, but it's all about Wayne. Yeah, that's a crazy thing, though.
They'd let Wayne host, but then he couldn't be in the show.
Exactly. And the crazy thing is they're old, but they still seem to have the same energy as before. Mm-hmm. But we're getting off topic here. And the topic
is the show is over. Leave.
Exactly. Yes, get out of here. Why are you listening to us now?
Anywho, so I'm Pixie.
I'm pyrosim.
And I'm Snake.
And you've been listening to Nerd Talk. You're not putting that in, I hope.
Now I don't have to splice the ending into the show. That'll save me like 30 seconds.
Okay, I'll stop recording now.